That's the main reason why I started therapy. I went to my first therapy session Thursday, and it changed my life completely. Welcome back to NTheRealestWay Podcast by Marqes Smith, where we talk about so many topics in the realest way. On this podcast episode titled, Out of Spite, Out of Love, we're going to talk about so many things that are going on in my current life. And I'm sure a lot of people are going through the same things or maybe similar, experiences. And before I start, I always have my air purifier on. I always have my TV on. There's something playing. But when I do my podcast, I turn everything off. I mean, the only thing that I can hear right now is my voice. But before that it's complete silence. So I just wanted to highlight how sometimes our voices, and let's not be afraid of that silence sometimes. We need it to gather ourselves. And sometimes we can't understand what we want if we're so worried about or we're thinking about other things that are going on in our mind. It's important to allow the silence to not deafen who you are, to not allow it to destroy your voice and what you have to say. Don't allow the noise to flutter your mind and cloud what you know to be true. I want to start this off with a little story. It's not that long. It's just something to get the podcast episode going and moving and flowing. Recently, I'm in the military. I have to be around people that I sometimes, not that I don't want to be around them, but they're not good for my mental health. So it's important that when we deal with people that aren't good for us, we have boundaries so that even if we can't necessarily physically be away from them, our mind and our spirit is able to set a boundary to where we can be okay. But a lot of people, especially, it all starts to make sense too when you're dealing with people who are always attacking or trying to infiltrate your space. 9 times out of 10, they don't have any boundaries with their self. They don't know when to stop with their self, whether it's self-control with gluttony or just like no control over your body with spending money or allowing people to treat you any kind of way. A lot of these things that they all are a self-reflection of who we are as people. When you deal with people like that, understand that they don't have any self-respect, and it's sad, but they don't have any boundaries either. So they don't mind walking over you because they don't have any. I've been that person before where I didn't really have a lot of self-respect for other people. And of course I didn't have any for myself. And that's vice versa. I didn't have any self-respect. So why would I care about your relationship and what you have going on with this other person? It's all a outward environments and outward experiences are a direct reflection of who you are. You have the chance and the choice to control what you do and who you are as a person. So this is mainly why this podcast episode is so important, because a lot of the times we let our emotions are very important. They keep us grounded, like a lot of things. But when we allow them to take control of who we are, when we allow our ego to take control of us, we do things out of spite. So let me get into the story, okay? Because I just went on a whole tangent. I'm in the military, and we don't get the choice to choose who we are around all the time. And a lot of us, we find ways to cope with being separate from our families, or traumatic experiences or things that may be different, a lot of people won't accept it from us. And they find light of it. There's a group of people where we create a safe space for ourselves to joke around and, make light of situations but when people come around who don't have that understanding and they don't have any boundaries with their self, they don't mind coming into a space that didn't need to be infiltrated. You could have joined, of course, but it's all about intention and how you do something. Instead of coming into the environment with positivity and with love, you came in with spite for no reason at all. I mean, there's been times when I'm like, I don't understand how people just pop up and they go in unsolicited. You ain't had to say nothing to them. They just decided. And I pray for them. I really hope that they find true peace. But in the moment, I was like, okay, well, we're having a safe conversation, a safe place. You don't get to come in and just destroy it. And a part of me, I told myself before that I wasn't necessarily angry anymore because I've had to deal with these people since I was in elementary school. When I was a child, a lot of people already had a idea of who I was before I even knew. So I already dealt with this a long time. At some point, you already know what's the tea. You already know what's going on. So I just had to tell myself, like, I'm not angry, but I was angry because I didn't want the environment that I was in to be negative and just out of spite. But again, I decided to leave that space and continue to react in that hostile environment, that experience. I carried it. And I was like, you know what? I can't control who I am, especially in that way, since I'm not harming anybody. I'm not hurting anybody. Okay? I can't control who I am. And I'm not talking about, if you're doing something that is, harmful for other people. I'm talking about genuinely living as I am. I can't control that. So now I'm going to live in a version of myself that is out of spite of who you think I am and what you're telling me I should be. But I did some self-reflection and I realized that that's no way to live. Even if the way I'm living is truly to encourage healing and growth, I'm already going about it wrong because it's about the intention and the energy. You can be doing something that is amazing and it's beautiful, but if your intention behind closed doors, when the curtain is out there, where people can't see you doing malicious things, it doesn't mean anything. And you're not making the impact that you think you're making. I can't be doing this out of spite. I can't be angry at you, at myself. I can't live my life out of spite. I can live my life despite what you're telling me, what you think I should be, who you think I am, despite that. But I will not live my life out of spite. To walk around with this feeling that every second I gotta be on the prowl to attack you before you attack me. I'm not gonna do that. It takes so much energy to be angry. It affects your body. The previous podcast episode, I talked about how people will attack you in the physical. That's where we represent ourselves as, in the physical, where you can see me. They will attack you in the physical to affect your spiritual, to affect your mental. They will do that. And I'm not going to allow those people who are living out of spite to make me move in a place, in a season of hurting other people. That's the main reason why I started therapy. I went to my first therapy session Thursday, and it changed my life completely. I didn't realize how much of my life I was living out of spite. You know how you watch these TV shows or you're just living and you're like, okay, well, I see how these characters are doing this, but I would never do this. And then when you're living it in these experiences and you're self-reflecting, you're like, I'm doing the same thing they did. I don't know how they didn't realize it, but I didn't realize it either. I'm living the same life they live, maybe just a little bit different. Telling myself I didn't want to be like these people, yet I'm just doing it in a different way. I'm just lying to myself about it. So I'm proud of myself for taking the step to not go for therapy out of spite, but out of love. Out of love for myself. Out of love for the people around me. I used to do a lot of things. I used to be angry all the time. I mean, I wake up, I'm angry. I go to school and I put on a facade. I'm happy around these people. I'm smiling in their faces. They ain't doing nothing for me, really. There are people there that I cared about truly, yes. But I'm talking about ultimately the people who didn't deserve as much energy. I gave them that. I gave them everything that I should have gave to other people. There was this conversation. I forget the woman's name. Beautiful black woman talking to James Baldwin about how we go out of our homes into places of environments where we have to kiss other people's ass. You go to work and you smile in your boss' face all day, and then I gotta come home and deal with your grief because you love me. She said, why can't you put on a facade with me? Why can't you pretend with me? I'm not saying you got a lot of your partner or whoever you live with, but I'm saying there should be a place of intention with how you show up for your partner or who you're with too. You can't do everything out of spite. You can't come home and say, well, this person did this, and you ain't have time for your partner to even fully be like, okay, well, how is your day going? Instead of just throwing all of who you are and all that went on with you. It's like, be intentional and let's not allow these so much power. We give it all the power, right? We give everything that we don't need to give a highlighted part of our lives. This big space in our lives, but we don't save any room for the things that truly need our attention. We see so many things that are going on and we're like, well, this is the issue. And I don't have anything. Nobody understands what I'm going through, but you don't look around and see the people who truly care about you. You're too busy chasing this facade of lies with other people. You run after these things that aren't even for you, that you're not taking the time to look for the things that are actually coming in your direction. I don't want to live out of spite anymore. I don't want to let everything that I represent of who I am to be out of spite, out of anger. Because I may be saying, oh, I want the world to heal. I want the world to grow. I want the world to change. But do I really? Especially if the intention behind it all is negative. I'm going to start living in a season in a place of love. You don't like who I am. You don't love who I am. You don't care for who I am. You think everything that I represent is the opposite of what you believe. That is fine. But I'm going to continue to live my life out of love because it's so liberating. It's so liberating to wake up and be happy for other people. I scroll on social media or I see people in real life, people that I see on a daily basis winning, accomplishing so much. And there's not a place in my mind where I'm like, well, why did they get this and why did they get that? No, I'm going to treat them differently out of spite. I'm going to unfollow this person on social media because they're doing this and they're doing that. And their time, why did they get their moment before I got my moment? Now I'm going to live out of spite because they got it. You don't know what they went through. You don't know how long it took for them to get there. Maybe they just started. You don't know their experiences. You don't know their life. Yet you're sitting here being angry and living out of spite. You don't even know the whole story. You don't even know anything that's going on in their life. Yet you're sitting here living out of spite for something that you don't even know anything about. Think about that. We let our lives revolve around us so much that we don't realize that other people are living their own life too. Everything ain't about you. You know those moments where you're like, oh, I don't look as nice today. I hope the whole world isn't looking at me. I go to this party. I hope the whole world doesn't stop and look at us. But we tell ourselves that so when we go out there and we look, that's what we see. But ain't nobody paying attention to you. Ain't nobody worried about you, really? Okay, they got their own issues. Everybody dealing with their own stuff. Ain't nobody worried about you. Okay, I had to realize that. Ain't nobody worried about you. You worried about you a little too much, that you are, what's the word? You are manifesting these delusions in your life. It's not even true. You're making up situations that are not even happening, giving energy to things that are not true. You are literally bringing these things to life. Okay, you are. The things that you give intention and you give power to are the things that are going to control your life. You sit here and you say, I want a life that's full of love, but you're living out of spite. You're being angry when you wake up. You're choosing to hurt people when you wake up. Think about that. You want a life that is so grandiose and so amazing, right? Oh, I want all these successful things that happen to me. But what are you doing to get that life? Are you living the life that you want? This conversation, you may say in the beginning, it may not make sense, but I promise you it's going to circle around. It's not a different thing. I mean, it's different in itself, but it connects together. Okay, I'm going to start the story. So, I am on a volleyball team. It's mainly my company, the unit I'm in, but we have different people who just we needed them to come on the team. Volleyball is a team effort. You cannot do it by yourself. No matter how hard you try, you're going against 6 people on another team. I promise you cannot guard the entire court yourself. You may be successful for a couple of matches, a couple of games, but I promise you cannot do it by yourself. It is a team sport. But a while ago, I found myself living in that part of my life out of spite. Everybody was successful in their own way. And when I didn't get my time to shine, or they didn't put me on the court, they took me off the court, I looked at myself like I was what's wrong with me? Why am I the problem? Why am I being taken off the court? I'm comparing myself? You're removing me for this person when they did this on the game? And I thought about that in my real life moments. I thought about that in my current life. Why am I sitting here comparing who I am to this other person because they got this and I didn't get that? Why am I making this a competition when we're all a team? I may not be, I'm a really good server. I can hit that ball over that net almost every single time. Okay. But I may not benefit the team as much as I could if I was on the sideline. Sometimes your importance in that season isn't to be the starter. It's to be the supporter, to be on the sidelines cheering your team on. Everything, you ain't gotta be in the front all the time. Your life is not just your life. You live with other people. It's important to take care of yourself, yes, and to make sure you're okay with what you're doing and how you feel. But at the end of the day, you live with other people. You work with other people. You can't expect the entirety of your life to revolve around you. Sometimes you got to take a back seat and say, hey, I'm not needed right now in the role that I think I should be in. Once I sat down and I sat on the bleachers and I was like, why am I angry about this? I need to cheer my team on. I need to be contributing positivity instead of sitting here with my hands crossed like this and making a face. I need to support my people. That's what I need to do. You sitting here trying to live out of spite. You don't realize how much harm that you're doing to not just yourself, but other people. Out of love. Once I started cheering my team on, I felt better too. Because I knew that I wasn't moving in a place of, why am I not good enough? Because I knew that I was good enough. I had to remind myself that I was important. I didn't need you to tell me that I wasn't important. Even if I stopped playing volleyball, I was never on the team ever again. And this could be used in any other situation. They could say, hey, we don't even need you more at work. Your importance to us does not matter. That doesn't mean that you don't matter anymore. That doesn't mean that you get to look internally at yourself and evaluate who you are as a person and say, well, why does this person get what they got and I didn't get that? Now you're comparing yourself. You don't know what could have happened. You could have got that same blessing in a different part of your life. Maybe the blessing that you didn't get was something that you didn't need because it wasn't a part of your journey. But we look at everything and we self-evaluate because we don't have that comfort within ourselves about what we're worth and why we matter. You don't have to be over here jumping across nets and smacking balls down and defending like crazy to have value in the world, to mean something. You don't have to. When I was in high school or I was doing these things, I don't have to be in first place. I don't have to compete with everybody who comes across me so that I can feel like I have some kind of importance. I don't have to do that, and I won't do that. Let's not live that way anymore, okay? This podcast has been something that has truly, every podcast episode, I didn't think I was so sure about my purpose in life than I am the next time I do something that is purposeful for myself and for other people. But I keep going and I continue to live truthfully as I am, to love God, to believe in myself and other people. I've never been closer to the person I want to be. And it's not like I'm running and running, trying to just grasp at this image that I think that I should have. But the more that I take care of myself and other people, the more that I realize what I'm doing and how I'm showing up for the world, the easier it is for me to navigate myself and understand what I want to do, who I want to be, what I want to represent. And I may not get it right every single time. I may not be always the person that people can go to. That's okay. Let's create a space. A question of your value, but more of a answer to what your resources are and who you are as a person. Ask yourself, am I living maybe not as the entirety of your life, but in different spaces in your life? Am I living out of spite? Am I going home and treating people I care about out of spite because they did something wrong? And deep down, I knew it wasn't their intention. We all go through seasons where we may be dealing with something and, we need to have grace for each other. Am I showing up and living with love? And that doesn't mean that you forgive people who have done you wrong. I mean, you should forgive people, but I'm not the person to tell you, oh, you should just forgive them. Everybody has their moments, their seasons of when they should decide to deal with what they need to deal with. And everybody doesn't have the resources that I have. I've been blessed. I've been lucky to get everything that I have right now and more. I'm so thankful. But if there's a chance to understand yourself better and other people, I implore anybody to go that route, to be willing to. There's moments when I have the choice to be angry at people. I had every right to be angry at them. Still, that is my right as a human being. You hurt me, I have the right to feel how I feel. Nobody can take that away. But I still have control over how I show up for myself and for other people too. Just because you did me wrong doesn't mean I have to live a life where I have to actively pursue hate towards you. Some people, they ain't got to speak to you ever again. They ain't got to have a conversation. That's what their way and their own way of saying they're done with the situation. That's them. That's their power. I already forgave you for who you were and what you did to me because I understood that we're on two different paths and your perception is not my perception. Okay? But I plan on just continuing on, just living life as I am and what I've been doing. And, when it's time to pivot, to change, I plan on doing that. I'm learning myself more and more every day, my body too. When I physically push myself and I understand not just mentally and spiritually who I am more, I understand what my capabilities are and what I can and can't do. It's a beautiful thing. The more that you are learning yourself, the more that you know yourself. But you have to be willing to go that route, to take care of yourself. And the first step that you can take on that route is to decide to love yourself and be okay with who you are right now in order to change. You can't live in the mindset of, why am I not good enough, and expect your life to change. You can't be like, well, why does this person have this, and expect your life to change. Write down the things that you want out of yourself, what you know that you could accomplish, and then go out there and try to do it the best way that you can. I want to do a lot of stuff. I want to do comedy. I may not be the best, but I have people who have made me happy, and I am a creative. I create all the time. I want to go about this in any way that I can to learn myself. I want to do comedy. I have a couple things that I could, make some comedy skits about, to do stand up. I don't know when it's going to happen. It may not be this year, may not be next year. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm definitely going to get on the stage one day, and hopefully I don't bomb. Okay. I think I'm pretty funny though. Let me see what else I want to do. I want to continue to learn myself and not be afraid of who I am and ashamed of who I was. I want to continue to do that every day. What else do I want to do? I can't think of anything else right now. I do want to choose to live out of love and not out of spite. No matter how you feel about my life, I'm going to live with love. Because if I decide to choose the negativity and to live that way, I'm no different than the energy that you're giving me. Now we're both just fighting negativity with negativity, and it doesn't work that way. It's not going to achieve anything more than what it has already, which is chaos. I'm going to decide to forgive you for what you said, because I want people to, when I have a moment in my life where I make mistakes, because I am, and I have, I would hope people would give me grace and, a chance to redeem myself and be, forgiven for the actions that I've committed, because I've done some things that I'm not proud of. So I'm going to close off this podcast episode. I find my podcast episodes a little bit shorter when I'm by myself, and I don't want to force myself to continue on the podcast, because then I'm just rambling and making up things, and just, it's not being authentic anymore. And I don't want this podcast to be inauthentic. I want it to be authentic. I want it to mean something. So if the podcast episode has to be 20 minutes long, it's going to be 20 minutes long. If it has to be 10 minutes long, it's going to have to be 10 minutes long. I'm going to say everything that God has told me to say when it's time to say it. And if I ain't got nothing else to say, I ain't got nothing else to say. And that's on period. I'm entering my 1 month before I leave South Korea. Every day I'm learning myself more. This has been something I never thought that would be so challenging for me, but I've handled it the best way I could. I'm so proud of myself. This was the year I've lived on my own. Almost every decision in my personal life, I've been the reason why I've decided it. And I had no other person to blame. I had no other person to be like, well, you did this and you did that and you didn't do this for me. No, you didn't do this for yourself. And this is why it didn't happen. I had to have conversations with myself and say, hey, well, you made a mistake, but let's not do that again. Okay? But I'm glad this was my experience. I'm glad I came to South Korea. I had to discover a part of myself, to learn a part of myself. So let's close it out. Continue love. Look for love. No matter how dark this world becomes, we have to be the light. We have to remind each other of the beauty that we have, the love that we have. We have to. We have to. It is so important that we have grace for ourselves and for other people. We don't know the days that we're going to need that grace. We're going to need somebody to come and say, hey, I see you. I love you. You are forgiven. You matter. You never know that. You never know. So like I say at the end of every podcast episode, I give thanks to the utmost, to the highest power, God. I'm thankful for my friends and my family. I'm so, so grateful. This is NTheRealestWay Podcast. Out.